This is Learn from Others, where we interview a cross-section of successful individuals so you can learn from their experiences, achievements, and even their mistakes. We ask 4 questions that will educate and inspire. Greg Stanley will be your guide as we join our guest on a journey from adolescent daydreaming to success in today's world. Join us on this adventure as we learn from others together.
Well, welcome to Learn from Others, where we help others succeed by sharing success. I'm very excited to introduce our special guest, DeJuan Gossett. DeJuan, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. Well, before we talk about your career journey, if you would, could you please tell us, what did you want to be when you grew up?
That's interesting enough. So what I wanted to be when I was younger was actually a Major League Baseball player.
Oh, nice. Were you good at T-ball?
I was pretty good at T-ball, for sure. And so I actually, throughout growing up, that was my best sport overall until I got bored a little bit. I think I played it so much to where come high school time, I kind of had worn down from just all of the games, long seasons, and so wound up gravitating towards football.
Okay, well, that's really cool. So I usually ask, what was one of your favorite subjects or hobby in school? So it sounds like you're all about the sports.
So school was actually on my mind as well. I was lucky enough to be in academically advanced classes growing up, and then in high school I wound up learning about economics, and that really grabbed my attention. And so that's what I wound up majoring at the University of Cincinnati in economics.
Wow, that's really cool. Now, what was one of your first jobs, one where you earned a paycheck and, feel like you had some responsibilities?
First job was delivering newspapers. I don't know if that's still common today, but back when I was younger, that was kind of the one you can get before you turn 16, and so I had a paper out.
Wow, that's really amazing, because you don't really hear about those much anymore, do you?
No, everything with being online and whatnot, for sure. I'm sure that's probably changed the dynamics a bit.
Yeah, for sure. Well, tell us, what do you do today?
Yeah, so I'm an employee benefits consultant with USI Insurance, and so I help companies, corporations mitigate risk and reduce costs on their insurance spend.
So if you would break that down a little bit for me and for our students, if you're with a company and you get benefits, meaning you get like health care coverage, insurance coverage, and it costs so much a month. So your job as it relates to the end product, say I'm an employee at X company. How does that look from my end?
You got it. So I'm going to work with the C-suite to make sure that they're able to offer the best benefits at the most competitive pricing structures. And so anything that we can do to enhance the programs, we will. But also strategically, we're going to look at how we can make sure that from a cost perspective, maybe we're transitioning risk, taking on appropriate risk to ensure that we can keep our costs down and maintain a good program for years to come.
So you're in a kind of a tightrope kind of area, because you're trying to make sure it works for your company while you're making sure it works for the worker, the consumer, where they get appropriate health care at a reasonable cost, correct?
You got it. I think that's where a lot of times the whole economics background really comes into play, and really being able to share, because there's some give, and sometimes that there's some movement that we have to make strategically that's going to give us the best position to win as a company, but even more so win for our employees from a satisfaction standpoint, to where we can hire and retain those employees and make sure that everyone's happy at the end of the day.
So now, do you work with multiple companies as your clients?
That I do. So I work with companies all over, some locally, even all the way up into Denver, Colorado. Everyone is in the similar situation of how can we really attack kind of the rising healthcare costs, and so those that are looking for a strategy and innovation and ways to be able to do so, that's what they want to speak with us about.
Now, let me try to understand this, because I find it really fascinating. So every time there's a healthcare law change, you have to understand that, correct? You have to understand what it means, how it impacts your customers, meaning the companies you work with, and they need to understand how it impacts their employees. Is that correct?
You're exactly right. And luckily enough, I'm blessed to have such a great team behind us here. We have multiple ERISA attorneys on staff, And so when anything comes out, they're the first to know, and so then they're going to give us appropriate guidance and that knowledge, and we're able to pass that along to our clients as well to see what those changes and how they're going to affect us moving forward.
Now, what does your typical work week look like?
It's interesting because you're really dealing with a lot of time that you're looking for solutions and innovation. There's a lot of meetings, there's a lot of planning, and so what you see from an open enrollment standpoint, which may be have a meeting and then I'm enrolling over a week or two period, that's a culmination of probably 9 to 10 months of work. And so from our days, I mean, it starts 7:30 group meetings all the way till the end of the day, where we may be with vendors or individuals learning what's the next big thing, right? What can we do to really give us an edge? And I really take a lot of those things from football and to it's almost like a football coach, right? Football coaches never sleep. If they're not sharing what they've learned with their athletes to put them in the best position to win, they're going out and they're researching other ways to continue to be innovative and strategic to give them the upper hand. And so that's kind of how our days work as well.
So for our students, as an employee, typically you have a 2-week window in which to sign up for next year's benefits. So you can sign up for your dental plan, for your eye vision plan, for your healthcare plan. And so all of your work is leading up to that 2-week trigger point where you got to make sure everything's set. Because when they start, signing up, you got to make sure you're 100% locked and loaded, correct?
Oh, yeah, you got it. So there's back-end negotiations, and there's also, because every year you're going to have a renewal, right? The insurance carriers are going to say, hey, you performed well from a claim standpoint the year before, or you didn't, and maybe your risk structure is a little bit different than it was last year, so sometimes you'll see increase. We hope to see some decrease, and et cetera, or at least a level from a premium standpoint. But we have to be prepared when that renewal comes back from our carriers to where we have a good, bad, or ugly scenario of what our next move is, so that when it does come for open enrollment, we've already have prepared and we're ready for that for the employees.
Yeah, so the vendors you mentioned, which are the companies you deal with, would be like the dental. You might be dealing with multiple dental companies as far as the dental benefit, correct?
You're exactly right. So dental carriers, vision carriers, life, there is some supplementary products, and then there's also tools now from a care management standpoint that can help those individuals if, let's say, they're diagnosed with diabetes or different things of that nature. And so there's so many solutions out there in an attempt to really kind of reduce costs out there, but you just have to be aware of what those are. And so that's our job, is to know what's the latest and greatest so that we can provide that information to our clients.
Yeah, that's great. That's really awesome. Well, tell us, you wanted to be a baseball player when you grew up, then you kind of went to football, and now you're in the healthcare world. How'd you get there? Take us from playing baseball to today.
Yeah, no, so baseball, I played all the way until my junior year in high school, and I started playing football in my sophomore year in high school. I did play 1 year in the 6th grade and a half of 7th grade, but truly started playing sophomore year in high school. And once I did that, I decided that I wanted to run track in the spring to get faster for football. It was at the same time as baseball season. So what I would do, I would go from baseball practice, and I'd hop the fence, and I'd go practice on the track field. And then once my race was over, I'd come back and jump over the fence and play baseball. So,
wow.
Yeah. And so it was fun, but also grueling. Eventually, I went full-time from a track perspective, just because that's my intention really turned into pursuing football as my sport. Obviously, I went and played at the University of Cincinnati, which we'll probably get into later, and then I had the opportunity to play with the New York Giants as a safety there before injury kind of stopped the career path there. From that point on, I went and actually started a mortgage company with a good friend of mine here from Ohio in Marco Island, Florida. We went to take advantage of some of in Cape Coral, Florida. It was the last undeveloped canal systems in Florida, and so property values were rising, and so we invested in real estate and did mortgages there in Florida before the market crash. You've seen movies and all those things about the 2007.
Right. Yeah.
Well, we experienced that firsthand and really got hit, took a direct hit from that. And so I kind of came back to Ohio licking my wounds. I was lucky enough to meet a recruiter that really said, hey, we'd like to bring some of your skills and abilities into insurance. And so I haven't left since.
Wow, that's great. That's a really interesting career trajectory there. So how long were you playing in the NFL?
I was in there for long enough for a cup of coffee. So I got hurt in training camp. So in college, I tore my ACL, LCL, PCL, and both meniscus my true freshman year.
Wow.
And so for most people, they said that they probably would never see the field again. I was blessed enough to have a great surgeon and a training staff that got me back kind of from a bionic man standpoint. My head coach, Rick Winter, called me the medical miracle, and played the next 4 years and was able to sign with the New York Giants. And then as we went into training camp, I tore that same knee, and at that point I couldn't play anymore. So it was, again, I like to say that it was long enough for a cup of coffee, but a great experience overall.
Wow, that's crazy. And for our listeners, you're actually our third NFL football player. If you wanted to hear the others, listen up for Anthony Munoz as well as Phil Costa. So awesome. Well, you're our third NFL football player, so that's pretty cool. I wish your stay in the NFL was a little longer. So.
Me too. But I think the way my body feels now, I probably won in that one, because if it felt any worse after having a long career in the NFL, then I'd be in trouble.
Yeah, that's actually a really good way to look at it for sure. Well, as a reminder, you can check out all previous episodes at learnfromothers.org. And if you're an educator or a student, you can search for podcasts by career cluster. So we learned what you wanted to be when you grew up, which was a baseball player that turned into a football player, and what you actually do today. So looking back, if you could do it all over again, what would you do differently?
If I could do it all over again, I would really dial in on the little things at a younger age. I know that we all think that there's a lot of time for recovery, and that we can. There's always time to regroup, and which is true, right? You can always have an opportunity to start over at any point in life. But if I really focused on, if there's one thing, it would be focused on the little things and really preparing for the long term of those effects. I think that would be one thing for people to truly think about. Another thing would be to really take advantage of the mentorships and the people around you that want to help and see you succeed, because as you build that network and you find that out later on in life, that the people that you are around are going to be a reflection of who you become in many ways. And so those are a couple things that I really would ensure that to even do even better second time around.
Yeah, that's great. And I recently heard the phrase, you are the average of the 5 people you hang out with. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. Well, let's talk to the student who would like to do what you do. What advice would you give them?
So honestly, I would tell more students to get involved and look at opportunities in the employee benefits world, because it's one of those things where I think a lot of people look at from an insurance broker perspective of insurance kind of be boring, or you think of a door-to-door sales person perspective, but that's not the case. There's opportunity for residual income, which is not as from a transactional approach, but can really change the dynamics of your life. And also, there's so many different positions within insurance, from a underwriter to account executive, account managers, that all play major roles within insurance. And so if there was someone that isn't thinking about insurance, I would tell them to think about that. And if there's someone that was in particular thinking about insurance, as you said, I would just tell them to really focus on the learning as much as they can. There's programs through CEBS, which is a certification that you can get that's really going to put you in position of the top 5% of individuals in the industry. And also, I would just say find a mentor in the industry that is doing well, and really learn as much as you can as you continue on your path to success.
Yeah, and I think, that job or just jobs in general are unheralded. A lot of folks don't know about them, but once they do know about them from forums such as this, they really realize what a great opportunity it is. So I love the fact that, you're talking about it's not just your job. There's a lot of other jobs that they might be interested in. And I would love to have a few contacts to have an underwriter, an actuary, those types of folks on this show as well. So
Definitely.
that's really cool. Well, are there any current projects you're working on that you would like to share?
So my book, 22 Ways to Tackle Success, is the most recent project. And it really is a story of really taking through some of the times of my lowest point. So that lowest point when I tore my ACL, LCL, PCL, both meniscus, and I was told that I probably wouldn't play football again. How do you get back up from that and really say that the future looks grim, but I'm going to make it? And so what are the steps that you can put into play to have success in not only the worst situations, but also in good situations, to really put yourself in best position to win, and not just one time, but win overall. So that's where 22 Ways to Tackle Success comes from, utilizing a lot of things learned from life and athletics and put into real life today.
And is that currently available?
It is. It's available at www.22wtts.com, and it's also available on Amazon.
Awesome. As with most journeys, success largely depends on transportation, and I'm a huge car guy. We don't know each other, but if you could tell me, what was your first car?
Yeah, so my first car was a hand-me-down from my granny, and it was an Oldsmobile Cutlass. I think it was probably in '96 that I got that car, maybe '95, and so I'm sure it was probably like a lower 80 model Cutlass. I had to put water in the every time I got in it and every time we stopped, and so at every stop sign it steamed, but that was my car. I loved it.
That's awesome. That's taking me back. You got to put water into your radiator just to keep going. I haven't done that in a long time.
Oh yeah.
Well, what is your dream car if you have one?
I've been truly blessed to have a lot of great cars, all the way from the BMWs to the Range Rover. And so if I had to say from a dream car perspective now, hey, who knows? Maybe it's the next car one day. I don't know. Maybe a Porsche.
Oh, nice. Okay, I wasn't expecting that. That's nice. Well, that's really cool. Yeah, I'm a big Porsche fan myself. Well, one great perk to some jobs is a company car. So that's a tremendous benefit. And if I had all the money in the world, I'd like to buy you a cool company car based on your job. So this one was fun because I went the route of, you're a benefits guy. I used to have a fleet car as a benefit in one of my previous employers. So I started Googling, like, what are the best fleet cars? And I stumbled across Mercedes-Benz apparently has a really good fleet car program. And then I said, well, what's the top of the line Mercedes-Benz that would be the perfect car for you? So I came up with a 2020 Mercedes Maybach. Have you ever heard of this car?
I have.
Yeah, these are crazy. They're like really crazy, like 200 grand plus. But they have like airline seats, they heat, cool, massage, and they have like handcrafted pillows in the back seat. They sense your face. It can read your face to see if you're stressed or not. And if you're stressed, it will change the lighting and the music and the mood and the temperature to kind of make you feel better, which is just really nuts when you think about it. So if I had all the money in the world, that's the cool company car I would buy for you.
Right. Well, I hope that that comes true one day to where you have all the money in the world, because that sounds like a great car for sure.
That's awesome. Well, it is available for you to see at learnfromothers.org. You just have to scroll down to the very bottom. But when your podcast is posted, it will be at the very top.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for taking us on your career journey today. What's the best way our listeners to learn more about you or your company?
Definitely. And so LinkedIn is always a good way. So definitely connect with me on LinkedIn for sure. And also, we do have through the webpage, www.22wtts.com. We'll have all type of updates and ways to get a hold of us for sure. So definitely appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Learn from Others, where we help others succeed by sharing success. Where will our next adventure take us? Subscribe to find out. If you know of someone who has a cool career story or occupation, contact Greg through Instagram at Greg Stanley LFO. That's GregStanley LFO. And we will see you soon as we learn from others together.